I thought marrying a doctor meant security, love, and a future without fear. But reality struck me like a cold blade when I realized that behind his white coat and warm smile, there were secrets darker than any disease. At first, he healed my heart with kindness, saving me from loneliness. Yet slowly, small lies turned into storms. Late-night calls, whispers behind doors, and his eyes that no longer met mine. My marriage wasn't a cure, it was the beginning of my pain. When I married a doctor, people said I was lucky. They said my life would be safe, comfortable, and full of respect. And in many ways, they were right. He was kind to me. He listened when I spoke. He held my hand when I felt weak. He promised me a happy life, a life where I would never feel alone again. Our wedding was simple, but beautiful. My family cried tears of joy. His family welcomed me with open arms. I believed. I truly believed that I had married the right man. Life with him was peaceful at first. Every morning, he would wake up early. He would get ready for the hospital, wearing his clean white coat. Before leaving, he would kiss my forehead and whisper, "Take care of yourself. I'll be back soon." I loved waiting for him. I would prepare dinner, light a candle, and sit near the window. When I heard his car, my heart would race with excitement. The moment he entered the house, tired but smiling, I felt safe. We would eat together. He would tell me about his day. Sometimes he shared happy stories, like saving a patient. Sometimes his stories were sad, but even then, I admired his strength. I thought, this is the man who protects lives, and now he is protecting mine. Our bond grew stronger in those first months. We laughed together. We took evening walks. On weekends, he took me out for dinner or long drives. He said I was his peace after long hours of stress. And I believed him. But slowly, very slowly, I began to see small changes. Tiny cracks, almost invisible, but they were there. At first, it was the late calls. The phone would ring at night. He would answer quickly. Sometimes he would walk to another room, speaking softly. When I asked, he said, "Emergency at the hospital, don't worry." I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? He was a doctor. Emergencies were part of his life. Then, I noticed his tiredness. He came home later than before. His eyes were heavy, his words were short. He smiled less. And sometimes he didn't look at me at all. One evening, as we sat at the dinner table, I noticed something strange. He was staring at his phone. Not once, not twice, but again and again. I asked gently, "Is everything all right?" He looked up and smiled quickly. "Yes, just work, don't worry." But his smile felt different. It didn't reach his eyes. And in that moment, something inside me whispered, something is not right. Still, I tried to ignore it. I told myself maybe I was imagining things. Maybe stress was making him distant. Maybe all doctors carried heavy burdens. I kept trying to be supportive. I cooked his favorite meals. I asked about his patients. I gave him space when he seemed tired. I wanted to be the wife he could rely on. But the silence between us began to grow. Small gaps in conversation, longer pauses at dinner, fewer laughs during our walks. It was like a quiet wall, slowly rising between us. One Sunday afternoon, we visited his parents. Everyone was cheerful. His mother praised him proudly. His father told stories of his childhood. And I smiled, pretending everything was perfect. But when I looked at him, I saw something different. His smile was polite, not real. His eyes, they were distant. As if he was there with us, but his heart was somewhere else. That night, when we returned home, I asked him softly, "Are you happy?" He looked surprised. Then he pulled me into his arms and whispered, "Of course I am. Don't ever think otherwise." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to hold on to his words. But deep inside, a small fear was growing, a shadow I could not ignore. And then one evening, everything changed. He came home later than usual, much later. I waited by the window. The dinner on the table had gone cold. When he finally arrived, his shirt was untidy, his face pale. I rushed to him. "Are you okay? Did something happen at the hospital?" For a moment, he didn't answer. Then he forced a smile and said, "Yes, just a very busy day. I'm fine." But I saw it in his eyes. A flicker of guilt, a secret hidden behind his calm words. And in that second, my heart whispered louder than ever before, something is about to break. The next morning, I woke up early. He was still asleep, his face calm, almost peaceful. For a moment, I forgot all my worries. I touched his hand softly and whispered, "Maybe I am just overthinking." But later that day, the feeling returned. When he left for work, he avoided my eyes. He kissed my forehead quickly, then rushed out. I stood at the door, watching him drive away, wondering why my heart felt so heavy. During the day, I tried to distract myself. I cleaned the house. I watered the plants. I called my mother. But no matter what I did, his distant smile haunted me. In the evening, I decided to surprise him. I cooked his favorite dish. I wore the dress he once said he loved. I even lit candles, hoping he would notice. I wanted to bring back the warmth we once shared. He arrived late again. When he entered the house, he looked tired. But when he saw the candles and the dinner table, his eyes widened slightly. I smiled and said, "Surprise." For a second, he hesitated. Then he forced a smile and whispered, "Thank you, it looks nice." We sat down to eat. But I noticed something strange. He kept glancing at his phone. Every time a message appeared, his hand moved quickly to hide the screen. I asked softly, "Work again?" He nodded, not meeting my eyes. Yes, the emergencies never stop. I tried to smile, but inside, I felt a sharp pain. His words sounded true, but his behavior told another story. Later that night, when he went to shower, I stood near his phone. It buzzed again. For a moment, I thought about picking it up, but then I stepped back. My hands shook. My heart whispered, "If you check, you may find something you don't want to see." I chose not to look. Not yet. Instead, I closed my eyes and prayed. Please let it just be work. Let me be wrong. Days passed. The distance between us grew wider. He started leaving earlier in the morning. He returned later at night. His smiles became rare, his words fewer. One evening, as we walked outside, I tried to hold his hand. For years, it was something natural. But this time, he gently pulled his hand away. He said softly, "My hands are cold." I smiled on the outside, but inside, my heart broke into 1,000 pieces. The people around us still saw us as perfect. Neighbors smiled when they saw us together. Relatives said, "You're lucky, doctors are the best husbands." I nodded and smiled back. But only I knew our perfect picture was slowly cracking. One Saturday, his hospital organized a dinner party. He asked me to come with him. I was excited. I thought maybe this was our chance to reconnect. Maybe he would hold my hand proudly in front of his colleagues. I dressed carefully. When we arrived, the hall was full of doctors and nurses. Everyone was talking, laughing, enjoying themselves. He introduced me politely. "This is my wife." But the way he said it was cold, formal, as if he was saying it because he had to. Throughout the evening, he spoke to others more than me. I sat at the table, smiling quietly, watching him laugh with his colleagues. And then, I noticed something. Every time his phone buzzed, he excused himself. He stepped outside. When he returned, his smile was different. Not the tired smile he gave me, but a softer one. A warmer one. My chest tightened. I asked myself silently, who is he smiling at like that? On our way back home, I finally gathered the courage to ask, "Is there something you're not telling me?" He looked at me quickly. Then he turned away, his eyes on the road. "No, nothing at all. You're worrying for no reason."
His words should have calmed me.
But instead, they felt like fire. Because the more he denied, the more I felt the truth hiding behind his eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. His breathing was steady. He was fast asleep. But I was awake, fighting with my thoughts. I remembered his gentle touch, his promises, his laughter. And then I remembered his cold eyes, his distant smile, the secret he carried. Tears filled my eyes. I whispered to myself, "Something is breaking, and I can't stop it." The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes. He noticed. "What happened? Did you cry?" I shook my head quickly. "No, maybe I just didn't sleep well." He looked at me for a moment, then kissed my forehead. "Don't think too much, everything is fine." But deep down, we both knew everything was not fine, and I couldn't escape the feeling anymore. Something soon was going to change forever. The following week, life felt heavier. We still lived in the same house, we still ate at the same table, but the warmth was gone. It was like two strangers pretending to be husband and wife. I tried to hold on. I smiled when he came home. I asked about his day. I cooked his favorite meals. But his answers were short, and his eyes were far away. One evening, I placed his dinner on the table. He sat down but didn't touch the food. I asked softly, "Is it not good?" He shook his head. "No, it's fine. I'm just not hungry." I felt my chest tighten. This was the meal he once said reminded him of home. But now, it meant nothing to him. Later that night, I sat by the window. The moonlight touched my face, but my heart felt dark. I whispered to myself, what happened to us? When did love become silence? The next day, I decided to visit him at work. I thought, maybe if he saw me there, he would smile. Maybe he would remember the woman who waited for him every day. When I entered the hospital, nurses greeted me kindly. "Hello, you must be the doctor's wife." I nodded and smiled politely. But inside, I felt like a shadow. I walked through the halls until I saw him. He was standing near the reception, laughing with a nurse. His face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in months. My steps slowed. I froze for a moment. I watched the way he leaned closer, the way his eyes softened. Then he noticed me. His smile faded quickly. "Oh, you're here." His voice was flat, cold. The warmth I saw a moment ago vanished in an instant. I forced a smile. "Yes, I thought I'd bring you lunch." He glanced at the nurse, then back at me. "Thank you, but I already ate." The words stabbed me like a knife. I lowered my eyes, holding the bag of food tightly. I whispered, "All right, maybe later then." I turned and walked away, my heart shattering with every step. That night, when he returned home, he acted as if nothing had happened. He asked about my day, but his eyes never met mine. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But instead, I smiled weakly and said, "It was fine." In bed, I lay awake again. I remembered the laughter I saw, the way his eyes shined for someone else. Tears rolled down silently. I thought to myself, I am losing him, and I don't know how to stop it. Days passed. Our home turned colder. The sound of his phone filled the silence. Every message, every call pushed me further away. One morning, I noticed something new. He left for work, but forgot his phone on the table. For a moment, I stood still. The screen lit up with a message. My hands shook. My heart raced. I whispered, "Should I look? Or should I walk away?" I stepped closer. The name on the screen was saved with just an initial. A single letter. Not a name. Not a title. Just one hidden symbol. I didn't open it, but the truth burned inside me. If it was innocent, why hide it? Why not save it with the full name? When he returned that evening, I wanted to ask, but fear held me back. Fear of the answer. Fear of breaking what little was left between us. So instead, I stayed quiet. But silence became heavier than words. Another week passed. His distance grew. The little moments of love disappeared. No soft touches. No warm glances. Just duty. Just routine. One evening, as I cleared the table, my hand slipped. A glass fell and shattered. The sound echoed in the kitchen. He rushed in quickly. But instead of asking if I was okay, he sighed deeply. "Be careful, can't you pay attention?" I froze. His words were sharp. Not worried. Not loving. Just cold. I looked at him with teary eyes. "Do I still matter to you?" He didn't answer. He looked away. And in that silence, I found my answer. That night, I stood by the mirror. I touched my reflection. I asked myself quietly, am I becoming invisible to the man I married? The following Sunday, we were invited to a family gathering. Relatives welcomed us with joy. They admired him, praised his profession, called us the perfect couple. I smiled in front of them, but inside, I felt like a doll dressed up and hollow. As we drove back home, I stared at him. His face was calm, his hands steady on the wheel, and yet he felt miles away. Finally, I whispered softly, "You've changed." For a moment, he glanced at me. Then he turned back to the road and said, "Maybe you're just imagining." But deep in my heart, I knew I wasn't imagining. I was witnessing the slow death of love. And I also knew something was about to break. Very soon. The days grew longer, but my nights grew darker. I tried to keep myself busy. I cleaned the house. I cooked. I read books. But no matter what I did, my thoughts always returned to him. He was slipping away. I could feel it, like sand slipping through my fingers no matter how tightly I tried to hold on. One evening, I decided to surprise him. I dressed carefully. I wore the dress he once said made me look beautiful. I prepared a candlelight dinner. I placed soft music in the background. For hours, I waited, but he didn't come. The food grew cold. The candles melted into silence. Finally, I heard the door. He stepped in, looking tired. I smiled gently. "Welcome home. I made dinner." He glanced at the table, then sighed. "I'm sorry. I already ate at the hospital." My heart sank. I lowered my eyes. "Oh, I see." I sat across from him, staring at the untouched plates. In that moment, I realized I was no longer part of his world. He had a life outside these walls, a life that didn't include me. The next morning, I found myself watching him secretly. The way he dressed, the way he styled his hair, the way he smiled when checking his phone. It was a smile he never gave me anymore. I whispered softly to myself, "Who makes you smile like that?" Later that week, he mentioned he would be late again. I nodded quietly, but inside, a storm was building. Every excuse, every late night, every message on his phone pointed toward one truth I didn't want to face. Still, I tried to believe him. I tried to tell myself, he's just busy. But my heart refused to listen. One afternoon, I walked into town. I thought maybe some fresh air would calm me. As I passed by the cafe near the hospital, I froze. Through the window, I saw him. He was sitting at a table. Across from him sat the same nurse I had seen before. They were laughing softly. Her hand brushed against his. My breath caught in my throat. I stepped back quickly, pressing my hand to my chest. The world blurred. The sound of cars and voices around me disappeared. All I could hear was the echo of betrayal.
I didn't confront him that night.
I couldn't. The fear of hearing the truth kept me silent. Instead, I carried the weight alone. I smiled when he entered. I pretended not to notice the perfume on his shirt. I pretended not to see the lies in his eyes. But pretending was killing me. One night, I gathered the courage to ask. We sat on the couch. The TV played softly in the background. I turned to him and whispered, "Are you happy with me?"
He looked surprised.
"Why would you ask that?" I swallowed hard. "Because I feel I'm losing you." For a moment, his face softened. Then he shook his head. "You're just overthinking. Stop worrying." But his words were hollow, his tone empty. And in that emptiness, my fear grew stronger. The next week, I noticed he began locking his phone. A password. Something he had never done before. When I asked, he simply said, "It's for privacy." Privacy. The word cut deep. Weren't we supposed to share everything? Weren't we supposed to be one? I started sleeping less. Every night, I lay awake, watching him. Sometimes he smiled in his sleep. Not because of me, but because of someone else. I could feel it. One evening, I walked into the living room quietly. He was on the phone. His voice was soft, almost tender. But when he saw me, he ended the call quickly. He stood up, forcing a smile. It was just a colleague. I nodded, but my heart whispered, no, it was something more. After he went to bed, I sat alone in the dark. I thought of the woman in the cafe, the laughter I saw, the glances, the touches. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. I whispered to myself, if this is true, if he has given his love to someone else, what will I do? The days that followed were unbearable. Every word he spoke, every silence he kept felt like a clue. The man I loved, the man I trusted, was no longer mine. At dinner one night, I finally asked the question that had burned inside me for weeks. I looked into his eyes and said softly, "Do you love me?" The room grew silent. The ticking clock on the wall was the only sound. He hesitated, and in that hesitation, my heart broke. Finally, he said quietly, "Of course I do." But his eyes betrayed him. His eyes told me a different story. That night, I stood by the window once again. The city lights flickered in the distance. Tears blurred my vision. I whispered, "Something is breaking, and I can't stop it." And deep inside, I knew the truth would soon come crashing down. The betrayal would no longer hide in shadows. And when it did, my world would change forever. That night, I couldn't sleep. I turned again and again on the bed. His phone was on the table, glowing softly in the dark. A voice inside whispered, "Check it." My hands shook as I reached for it. I hesitated. If I opened it, if I saw something, my life would never be the same. But my heart was stronger than my fear. I entered the password. To my shock, it worked. The screen lit up. Dozens of unread messages appeared. Most were from her, the nurse. My chest tightened. I opened one. Her words felt like knives. "I miss you already. When will I see you again?" Last night was perfect. I froze. Last night? He had told me he was on duty. He had told me he was saving lives. But the truth was, he was betraying me. Tears fell onto the screen. I scrolled further. There were pictures too. Selfies together. Smiles. His arm around her. The same smile he no longer gave me. I covered my mouth, trying not to scream. The pain was unbearable. My hands trembled so badly, I almost dropped the phone. I put it back, quietly. I lay down beside him, staring at the ceiling. He slept peacefully while I shattered into pieces. The next morning, I couldn't look at him. When he said, "Good morning," I forced a smile. When he kissed my forehead, I wanted to push him away. But I stayed silent. Inside, I whispered, "How could you?" All day, my mind replayed the messages. Her words, his replies, the pictures. It was all real. No more doubt. No more excuses. That evening, I tried to act normal. I served dinner. He talked about the hospital. I nodded, but my thoughts were elsewhere. Finally, I asked, "Were you busy last night?" He looked at me quickly. "Yes, very busy. Emergency cases." I forced a laugh. "Strange, you didn't look tired when I saw the photos." His fork froze midair. His eyes widened. "What photos?" I stared at him, my heart pounding. "The ones with her. The nurse." For a moment, silence. Then he stood quickly. "Why were you looking through my phone?" I laughed bitterly. "That's your answer?"
Not sorry.
Not explanation. Just anger at me. His face hardened. "You don't understand. She's just a friend." "Friends don't send messages like that," I shouted. Friends don't meet in secret at cafes. Friends don't say, "Last night was perfect." His face turned pale. He had no words. I broke down crying.
Why?
Why her? What did I do wrong? Was my love not enough? He tried to reach for me, but I pushed him away. "Don't touch me." For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Fear of losing me, or maybe fear of being exposed. That night, I packed a small bag. I didn't leave, not yet, but I wanted him to see it. I wanted him to know I could walk away. He begged me not to. He said he was sorry. He said it was a mistake. But I had seen too much. I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't unfeel the pain. Days passed. The house grew colder.
We spoke less.
When we did, our words were sharp. At night, I cried silently. During the day, I wore a mask, but inside, I was dying. And then something inside me shifted. I looked at him one morning sipping his coffee like nothing had happened. And I thought,
No.
you can't hurt me and walk free. The seed of revenge was born. I didn't plan it right away. At first, it was just a thought, a whisper in my mind. What if he felt the pain I feel? What if I made him suffer the way I do? The idea grew. Slowly, dangerously. I started watching him closely. Every word, every move, every lie. I noticed how he tried to hide his phone. I noticed how he slipped out at odd hours. The more I saw, the stronger my resolve became. One evening, I looked into the mirror. My reflection stared back, eyes red from tears, face pale from sleepless nights. And I whispered, "No more crying. No more begging. It's my turn now." But fear crept in. What if he found out? What if someone knew it was me? What if I lost everything in the process? The thought was terrifying, but the pain of betrayal was stronger. And so, I began to plan.
Carefully.
Silently, step by step. He thought he was clever. He thought his secret was safe. But soon he would learn. Revenge can be colder than love. The first step was silence. I stopped asking him questions. I stopped searching his phone. I stopped crying in front of him. He thought I had forgiven him. He smiled more. He tried to hold my hand again. But inside, I was colder than ice. At night, when he slept, I stayed awake. I began to write notes. Lists. Ideas. Ways to hurt him the way he hurt me. The simplest way was exposure. If I showed the messages to his family, his hospital, his friends, his image would collapse. The respected doctor, the faithful husband destroyed in a second. But was that enough? Would his shame heal my wounds? Would his humiliation return my peace? I wasn't sure. So, I waited. I observed. I gathered. One evening, he left his laptop open. He was in the shower. My heart raced. I opened his email. And there, more messages. Not just the nurse. Others too. My blood ran cold. He wasn't just unfaithful once. He was a liar in every way. I closed the laptop quickly before he returned. But that night, I knew my revenge had to be bigger. The second step was patience. I acted normal. I cooked. I cleaned. I smiled when needed. I played the role of the loving wife. But behind my smile, I built a trap. I created a secret account. A place to store screenshots. A place no one could trace. Every message. Every photo. Every secret he thought was hidden. I saved them all. The third step was control. I started asking small questions. Not to know the truth, but to see him lie. When did your shift end? Why are you late again?
Who called you just now?
Each time, he lied. And each lie became another weapon for me. Sometimes, I almost broke down. Sometimes, I wanted to scream at him again. But I held myself back. Because my revenge was not ready yet. The danger grew. What if he discovered my account? What if he caught me taking screenshots? What if he realized I was no longer his blind wife? The fear was real. It shook me at night. But then, I remembered the messages, the photos, the betrayal, and fear turned into fire. I began small experiments. One day, I left a hint. I said, "Strange people look different when the mask falls." He froze, but I smiled sweetly and changed the subject. Another day, I mentioned the nurse's name. I said, "She works very late, doesn't she?" His face turned pale. But again, I laughed it off. I wanted him nervous. I wanted him guessing. Was I watching? Did I know everything? Could I destroy him anytime? Yes, I could. But still, it wasn't enough. His fear was only the beginning. I needed him to feel broken. I needed him to feel powerless. The way I had felt. One evening, as I folded his shirts, I whispered to myself, "It's not about leaving him anymore. It's about making him regret losing me." The plan grew darker. I thought about his reputation. How much he loved being respected. How much he loved being admired. What if that respect vanished? What if people saw him the way I saw him now? The idea thrilled me, but it was also dangerous. If I exposed him too quickly, he might escape. He might twist the story. He might turn people against me. So I waited. I gathered more. I learned his schedule. I traced his movements. I even followed him once, staying far behind. And what I saw confirmed everything. He wasn't ashamed.
He wasn't guilty.
He was happy, laughing with her, holding her hand, smiling, the smile that used to belong to me. That night, my heart turned to stone. There was no love left, only fire. But even in fire, there was fear. I lay awake thinking, what if someone finds out it was me? What if he exposes me instead? What if I lose everything?
The thought haunted me.
But then I remembered. I had already lost everything. My trust, my peace, my love. What more could he take from me? I looked at him sleeping, peaceful, unaware, safe. And I whispered to myself, not for long. Because the time was coming. The plan was almost ready. And soon the first move of my revenge would strike. The first move was small, almost invisible, but powerful. One morning, I borrowed his phone. I said mine wasn't working. He gave it without fear, because he thought I was still blind. I saved one message, one photo, and I sent it to my secret account. It was simple, fast. He never noticed. That night, I looked at the photo again. His smile, her smile, their hands almost touching. The pain burned my chest, but the pain was also my weapon. The second move came the next day. I printed one of the messages, just one, and I slipped it into his pocket while he got ready for work. Hours later, he came home, angry, shaken. He searched his clothes, his bag, his wallet. Finally, he asked me, "Did you see any paper in my pocket?" I looked up, innocent. Paper? No, why? He didn't answer, but I saw the fear in his eyes. Fear that someone else might have seen it. Fear that his secret was no longer safe. That fear gave me strength. The third move was riskier. I called him at work, but I didn't speak. I let him hear my breathing. Then I hung up. He came home nervous. He said, "Strange, someone keeps calling me, not speaking." I acted surprised. Really? That's scary. Inside, I smiled, because the game had started. But with every move, the danger grew. What if he checked the phone bill? What if he traced the calls? What if he discovered it was me? The thought made my hands shake, but I pushed it aside, because now I was too deep to stop. One evening, as we sat for dinner, I looked straight into his eyes and said, "Sometimes the truth always finds a way out." He dropped his fork. His hand trembled, but he laughed. "Why are you saying such things?" I only smiled and ate quietly. Inside, I felt alive. For the first time in months, I wasn't the weak one. He was. The fourth move was louder. I created a fake email, anonymous, no name, no trace. And from that email, I sent one photo to his hospital office, to his private inbox. The subject line read, "Be careful. Secrets don't stay hidden forever." I knew he would panic, and he did. That evening, he came home early, sweating, restless. He asked, "Did anyone call? Did you check my emails?" I shook my head.
No.
Why? Again, he stayed silent. But that night, he couldn't sleep. He turned left.
He turned right.
And finally, he left the bed. I heard him in the other room,
Typing.
deleting, erasing, as if he could erase the truth itself. And I lay in bed smiling, because the cracks were widening. Still, fear lived inside me. What if he finds out it's me? What if he turns violent? What if I lose my safety? But then, I thought about the betrayal. I thought about the way he laughed with her, the way he lied to me, the way he destroyed my trust. And my fear became fire again. The fifth move was unexpected. I told him I wanted to visit his hospital. I said I wanted to see his world, meet his colleagues, bring lunch for him. His face went pale. He refused quickly. No, I'm too busy there. It's not comfortable for you." But I smiled sweetly. "Maybe another time then." Inside, I knew the truth. He wasn't protecting me. He was protecting her. And that truth became another knife in my plan. The sixth move was the most dangerous yet. I left a letter, handwritten, anonymous, on his car seat. It said, "Your wife deserves the truth. She will find out soon." That evening, he came home pale as death. He searched my eyes. He searched my voice. But I gave him nothing.
He broke down.
He shouted. He accused. "Someone is trying to ruin my life. Someone is after me." I pretended to be shocked. I pretended to comfort him. But inside, I was smiling. Because he didn't know, the enemy was already in his home. The consequences began to ripple. He grew paranoid. He checked the doors twice. He locked his phone with a new code. He looked over his shoulder when walking. But the best part, he looked at me differently. Not with love, not with trust, but with suspicion. And that suspicion was the sweetest revenge. Because now, he was living in the prison he had built. But deep inside, I knew. This was only the beginning. The storm had not yet arrived. The biggest move was still waiting. And when it came, it would shatter everything. The game was no longer small. It was big, dangerous, and close to breaking. I had started the fire. But now, the flames were everywhere. He was restless, paranoid, and nervous. At dinner, his hands shook when holding the spoon. When the phone rang, he jumped. When someone knocked at the door, he froze. I watched silently, like a hunter watching prey. But my heart was not calm either. Every day, I asked myself, what if he finds out? What if he knows it's me? That thought cut my sleep. But then another thought healed me. He betrayed me first. He broke my trust. He killed my peace. Now, I was only returning the pain. The next move was bold. Too bold. I called his office. But this time, I spoke. Only one sentence. Does your wife know? Then I hung up. That evening, he stormed into the house. His face was red. His hands were shaking. Someone is calling my office. Someone is trying to destroy me. I gasped. I touched his arm. Oh my God, who would do such a thing? But inside, my blood was boiling with excitement. Because the walls were closing in on him. The next morning, he left early. But I followed. Not too close. Not too far. He drove to a cafe. And she was there. The woman. The one from the photos. The one from the messages. They sat together. Leaning close. Talking fast. I watched from outside. My heart beat so fast I thought it would explode. She touched his hand. And he pulled it back quickly. Looking around. Scared. I almost laughed. Because the fear in his eyes told me he felt the trap. But I wasn't ready to end it. Not yet. That night, I left another note on his desk. It said, "Everyone can see you. Stop before it's too late." He read it, and his face drained of color.
He looked at me.
Then he looked away.
He didn't eat.
He didn't sleep. He sat on the bed, silent, broken. I whispered to myself, "This is what betrayal feels like. This is what you gave me. Now, it is yours." But the game began to hurt me too. My chest was heavy. My mind was loud. Some nights, I wanted to scream. Because revenge is not soft. It cuts both sides. Still, I couldn't stop. I was too far. Too deep. One evening, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. A message. It said, "Stop this game, or you will regret it." I froze. My breath caught. Did he know? Was it him? Or someone else? For the first time, I felt hunted. Fear crawled into my skin. But anger pushed it out. "No," I whispered. "I will not stop. I will not be weak again." The next day, I planned something bigger. Something final. I gathered all the messages. All the photos. Every little piece of proof. I printed them, one by one. The papers looked heavy in my hand. Like weapons. I put them in an envelope. And I wrote one word on it. Truth. But I didn't send it. Not yet. I kept it hidden. Waiting for the right moment. Because revenge is not only about pain. It is about timing. That night, as he slept, I watched his face. The man who once held my hand with love. The man who once called me his world. Now he was my enemy. I whispered softly, "You think you are safe. You think no one knows. But your world is about to fall." He moved in his sleep. And for a second, I felt something. Not love. Not anger. Something else. Was it guilt? Was it pity? I didn't know. But I pushed it away. Because I had come too far. And the end was close. The final stage was ready. The storm was here. The truth was about to explode. The night was silent. But inside me, the storm was loud. I held the envelope in my hand. The one I had prepared. The one with the word, truth. My fingers shook. My chest burned. My heart screamed. This was it. The end. The moment everything would break. I stood in the kitchen, watching him drink water. His face pale. His eyes tired. His hands restless. "Are you okay?" I asked softly. He nodded, but his lips trembled. I stepped closer. "I know." His head snapped up. His eyes wide. What do you mean?" I held his gaze.
Cold. Sharp.
"I know everything." Silence. Heavy. Dark. He dropped the glass. It shattered on the floor. His lips parted. but no sound came. I know about her, I whispered, every word like a knife. He shook his head. No, it's not what you think. Don't lie. My voice cut. You lied enough. He stepped closer, his hands shaking. I made a mistake. I laughed. Sharp, empty. A mistake? I leaned closer. You call betrayal a mistake? He froze. His eyes dropped. Say her name, I said. His head shot up. What? Say her name. My tone heavy, strong. Say the name of the woman you chose over me. His lips trembled, but he said nothing. I slammed the envelope on the table. The sound echoed.
Loud.
Sharp. He stared at it.
Confused. Scared.
Open it, I ordered. He reached with shaking hands. Slowly, he tore it open. Photos spilled out. Messages.
Proof.
His breath caught. His skin turned white. He looked at me, eyes wide, tears forming. Where did you get this? I stepped closer. My eyes, my ears, my pain. They gave it to me. He stumbled back. His voice broke. Please listen. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean? I shouted. You didn't mean? You planned it. You hid it. You enjoyed it. He covered his face. His shoulders shook. I'm sorry. I stared at him. Cold. Silent. Sorry doesn't fix broken trust. Sorry doesn't heal stabbed hearts. Sorry is nothing. He looked up, tears streaming. Please give me one chance. I laughed, but the laugh was bitter. Empty. You want a chance? After giving her everything? After stealing my life? After making me feel like nothing? He reached out, trembling. I was lost. I was weak. I pulled back, my voice sharp.
No.
You were selfish. You were cruel. You were mine. And you threw me away. He fell to his knees, hands pressed together. Don't destroy me. I froze, because those words sounded like mine. The words I had once whispered in silence. But now it was his turn. I picked up the photos, held them high. You destroyed yourself. And I dropped them one by one onto his head, each paper falling like pieces of his broken truth.
He sobbed.
Begging, shaking. But I stood tall.
Cold.
Unmoved. The truth was out. The mask was gone. The storm had begun. He stayed on his knees, his breath heavy, his body trembling. Please, he whispered, don't end us like this. I tilted my head, cold, unmoved. End us. I repeated. You ended us the moment you chose her. He shook his head violently. No, I didn't love her. I stepped closer. My words cut. Then why her lips on your skin? Why her perfume on your shirt? Why her name in your messages? He broke, tears pouring. I was weak. I was stupid. I didn't know what I was doing. I leaned down, my face inches from his. Then let me remind you, you knew exactly what you were doing. Every call, every lie, every night. He sobbed harder, his hands gripping the floor. You don't understand, he cried. I felt empty. I needed someone. She was there. I pulled back, my chest burned, my throat tight. You needed someone? I whispered. I was someone. I was yours. But you chose a stranger over your wife. His head dropped. His voice cracked. I hate myself. I stared. Cold. Sharp. Good. Hate yourself. Because I hate you more. He looked up. Eyes swollen. Don't say that, please. You love me. You always loved me. I laughed. But the laugh was bitter. Hollow. Love. I spat. Love doesn't survive lies. Love doesn't survive betrayal. Love is dead. He grabbed my feet, clutching, begging. I'll change. I'll prove myself. Just don't leave me. I yanked my foot free, my tone sharp. You already lost me.
His body collapsed.
His sobs loud, broken. I turned away, but my voice was strong.
Clear.
Tomorrow, everyone will know. His head shot up. What? I faced him again. My revenge is not silence. My revenge is truth. He panicked. No, you can't. My career, my family, they'll hate me. I stepped closer. You should have thought of that before you destroyed me. He crawled to me.
Desperate. Wild.
Please, I'll do anything. Anything. I leaned down, whispered in his ear, then disappear. He froze. His breath caught. What do you mean? Leave, I said coldly. Leave me. Leave her. Leave this life. Or tomorrow, the world will see who you really are. He shook his head, tears falling. I can't lose everything. I stood tall, my tone sharp. You already did. Silence. Heavy.
Dark.
He buried his face in his hands, his body shaking, his voice broken. Please, I beg you, But I didn't answer, because inside me, I felt power. The power he once stole. Now mine. The night was no longer silent. It was filled with his sobs and my revenge. Morning light. Sharp. Cold. I stood by the mirror. My reflection steady. Unshaken.
Today was the day.
The day truth walked out of shadows. He sat at the table.
Silent.
Eyes red. Hands trembling. I placed the phone in front of him. "Choose," I said. "Leave quietly, or I send everything." He stared at the screen. His lips pale. "Don't," he whispered. "Please don't." I tapped the screen. Photos. Messages. Voicemails. His affair laid bare. Undeniable. His face crumbled. "Don't ruin me." His voice cracked. "You'll destroy everything." I leaned forward. My tone cut. "You destroyed everything. I'm just showing the ashes." He tried again. "You loved me once. Doesn't that mean anything?" I stared, unmoved. "It means I trusted you. And you killed that trust with your lies." Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. He swallowed hard. "So, you'll tell them? Everyone?" I smiled coldly. "I don't need to tell them." He frowned. Confused. "What do you mean?" At that moment, the doorbell rang. He froze. I didn't move. "Go ahead," I said. "Open it." His steps were shaky. His breath shallow. He opened the door. Her. The other woman. Standing there. She smiled softly. But when she saw me, her face strained. I stepped forward.
Calm.
Strong. "Perfect timing," I said. "Both of you here. Saves me effort." She stuttered. I didn't mean." I cut her short.
Don't speak.
"Just listen." I turned to him, then to her. My voice sharp, unforgiving. "You thought you could hide. You thought you could live in shadows. But shadows always fade when the sun rises. And today," I paused, my eyes burning into them. "The sun is here." He tried to interrupt. "Please don't do this." But I raised my phone and pressed send. Messages.
Pictures.
Recordings. Delivered.
To his family.
To her friends. To everyone who thought they were innocent. Their faces.
Shattered.
Broken. Her mouth opened in horror. No, what did you do?" He dropped to the floor. Hands on his head. "My life, it's over." I stood tall.
Calm.
Powerful. "Exactly," I whispered. "Now you know how it feels to lose everything in one moment." They looked at me. Fear in their eyes. Shame burning their skin. But I didn't flinch. I didn't bend. Because this was the end. The final strike. The revenge they never saw coming. I turned my back. My voice final. Cold as stone. "You wanted lies. You wanted betrayal. Now you live with the truth." And I walked away, leaving them in ruins, leaving them in the fire they started. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Silence pressed against the walls like a weight. I sat on the edge of the bed. My hands rested in my lap. The phone beside me was still. No messages.
No calls.
It was over. The revenge. The confrontation. The explosion of truth. I had won. Or at least, that's what victory should have felt like. But inside, it wasn't triumph. It wasn't joy. It was something colder, heavier, emptiness. I thought exposing them would free me, that seeing their faces collapse under the truth would give me peace. But instead, the silence afterward cut deeper than their betrayal. I remembered his face, the way his eyes begged me, not out of love, not out of regret, but out of fear. And her trembling lips, her tears, her shame burning her skin. I had shattered them, the way they had shattered me. But standing in the ruins, I wondered if I had lost myself too. Days passed. Whispers spread. Families talked. Neighbors judged. Their names carried scandal now. Everywhere they went, eyes followed. Whispers chased them like shadows. And me? People looked at me too. Some with pity. Some with admiration. Some with judgment I didn't deserve. But none of that mattered. Because the nights belonged to silence. When the lights dimmed, I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing echoes of his lies, her laughter, their secret world. And even though I had torn it apart, the ashes still clung to me. One evening, I walked by the park. Children laughed. Couples held hands. The world spun as if nothing had happened. And I wondered, was I stronger now? Or just colder? A woman stopped me, her voice soft. "I heard what you went through. You're brave."
Brave.
That word stung. Bravery was facing storms. But what I did, was it bravery? Or vengeance wearing a mask? I went home, sat by the mirror, looked at myself.
Long. Hard.
The person staring back, She wasn't the same woman who once believed in love without fear. She wasn't the woman who trusted blindly. She was sharper now. Her eyes carried fire. But behind that fire, a shadow remained. Because revenge, it doesn't heal. It only burns. And when the fire fades, scars remain. I poured a glass of water, held it tight, whispered to myself, "You survived. That's enough." Maybe peace wasn't instant. Maybe healing wasn't loud. Maybe it was slow, quiet, hidden in small moments, like learning to smile again, learning to breathe without the weight of betrayal pressing on my chest. I knew one truth now. Revenge might break chains, but it never builds wings. And as I closed my eyes, I promised myself I would not let their betrayal define the rest of me. I would not carry their lies forever. They chose destruction. I chose survival. That was my victory. Not the exposure, not the shame, not their downfall, but the simple fact that I was still standing, even after everything. Tomorrow would come, different, uncertain, but mine. And as I breathed into the silence, I realized
Some scars stay.
some wounds never close, but life still waits. And I would walk forward, not as a victim, not even as a victor, but as someone who knew the price of betrayal, the cost of revenge, and the strength of survival. Because in the end, peace is not given. It is chosen. And tonight, I chose peace. Thank you for watching this emotional journey. Stories like this remind us how fragile trust can be and how strength often comes from pain. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments. Your words truly matter here. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful life stories that speak to the soul. Each video is created with love, and your support helps keep these voices alive. Let's grow together, one story at a time.